Welcome to the Keep the Faith podcast. I am your host. I think I'm going to turn these glasses off. I am your host, Tori, and it is a beautiful Sunday. Hope you guys went to church on today. Hope you had an amazing Sunday today. And I have a special guest with me today, Mrs. Mattie Lisa. Is it? You put it out. Let me make sure I'm saying it right. Is because I always say it as separately. Mattie Lisa. So how do you want me to say it?
Mattie Lisa.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
That's
Well,
perfect.
let me do this. I'm going to try to tag you. Let me see how I can share this. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can share it to your page.
Okay.
Give me just a second. I'm going to say share to a friend's timeline. Do you have it set up to where you can people can send
I'll
stuff
have to approve it.
Okay, let's see.
And I just shared it out.
Okay,
So
you
we're good
ready?
to go. I'm
All
ready.
right. All right. Of course, this is your girl Tori. It is a beautiful Sunday, and I have with me Miss Mattie Lisa on today, and we're gonna be talking about the importance of self-care. But before we talk about self-care, before I have Miss Mattie Lisa introduce herself and tell us about herself, I want to first say this. I want to show love to my good friend Miss Wanda Govan. Today is the day that Nathaniel Streeter transitioned. We just had a beautiful, beautiful balloon release. It was, I can't even put into words how beautiful it was. So I want to send her my love and prayers, even though I just left her. I want to publicly show my love and appreciation for her. For her, and you guys that know the words of prayer, please continue to keep her in your prayers, and also continue to keep the Streeter family in your prayers because they have actually suffered another loss a couple of days ago, an unexpected loss. So please keep the Streeter and Govan families in your prayers. So, with that being said, it is a pleasure and honor to have you with us today, Mattie.
Why?
And tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the topic at hand.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Self-Care Sunday. I know that phrase has been dubbed time and time again, but I am Mattie Lisa again. I'm also known as Coach Mattie. I am a wife, mom, all the things, including a certified transformational life coach. I got my certification. Yeah, it's been a little over 3 years while I've been coaching in the corporate setting for over 8 years. I decided, once I was able to identify my purpose, which is to help those find and transform their lives, I became certified to do with that. So when I'm not managing in a financial institution, my 9 to 5, my 5 to 9 is being a coach and also a plus size influencer. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Let me ask you a quick question before we talk
Sure.
about self-care. What is something that made you want to get into coaching?
Well, from the very beginning, I was always dubbed as someone that, whether I like the term or not, that people call me Mama Mattie. And so what I uncovered, even though I didn't really like that term, I still don't really like that term. But what I uncovered is a lot of people sought after me and also was receptive to guidance. For me, really looking at someone's situation and helping them pivot, asking them a lot of questions. Sometimes that's hard for people to sit in front of those questions, but asking them that. So it wasn't until I got in my very early 30s that I realized what that was, and how I could be of service to others. So once I was able to realize that, coaching, even though I was doing it in corporate for a while from a business standpoint, life coaching is so vital. I think that is something that people don't tap into enough. I could go on and on about, why it's so important for that. But that's some of the things I think that really made me identify with wanting to be a coach.
Okay, sounds good. And of course, today we're going to be talking about self-care. Why is self-care? And I like the term, I like when you said self-care Sundays. I love that. Now I'm gonna make sure that I start doing some self-care on Sundays. And a lot of times most of us do some self-care and we relax on Sunday, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we're still working on a Sunday. But tell us why it is so important to indulge in self-care.
Okay. Well, I'll start off with the definition. That's the type of person I am. And self-care itself is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. So the reason why it's so important is because we need to take care of our health from every aspect, from the physical, spiritual, and mental sense. And we need to preserve what we already have. You've heard the term a lot of times that you can't pour from an empty cup, and I fully agree with that. Not only am I speaking to women about it, but men also, in the value of why we should have self-preservation for ourselves.
And what exactly does self-care look like? Because a lot of times misinterpret what self-care actually is. Even though you defined it, what are some of the things that you would consider self-care?
Taking any act that is taking your own isolated time to rejuvenate yourself.
Okay.
So that means no act is too big, no act is too small. They're all things that you do. The biggest thing is it recentering you? Is it something that is solely, in most cases, it should solely be evolving you, but is it something that is going to rejuvenate and benefit you? So, for an example, I think I did like a self-care bucket list one time of just things I wanted to do. And then there's different categories with self-care, like I was talking about. So for me, self-care from the free 99 is taking my walks. Dedicating 45 minutes almost every day to walking. Not only is it helping my physical self-care and building my physical health, but my mental. I found over the last year or two, I've seen my life when I don't consistently walk, and I've seen my life when I do. So that would be something that doesn't cost you anything or activity versus what's more popular, I would say, or more trendy, I would say, is going out, getting a mani, a pedi, you know, taking the time to go to dinner by yourself.
Okay. Now you know it's a lot. You know it's hard for some people to do that, to take themselves out by themselves. Because I do it. I've been doing it. Actually, I did that this past weekend. I took myself out over the weekend, and a lot of times that is so hard to do as far as self-care. But why is it important to spend that quality time with yourself when you're indulging in self-care?
So I'll take it from a sense of commitment. And specifically talking to, I don't know fully if your podcast are predominantly women listeners or male listeners or blend, but I'll speak from a woman perspective. And I'll even get more specific and speak to those that are wives and those are mothers. We often always keep commitments to everybody else. So even if you don't have children, you may be really full-fledged in the workforce, you're always keeping commitments to your employer. Or if you're a wife, you're always keeping a commitment to your husband. Or if you're a wife, you're a mother or a mother, you're always keeping a commitment to your children. But self-care is times where you're keeping commitments to yourself. So making that isolated and dedicated time not only is going to make you feel good about yourself, not saying that anyone doesn't have self-love, but care and love is two different things. Because what I realized was that I always loved myself, but I didn't always care for myself because I was that person that I'm speaking about, where I kept commitments with everybody else from my mother on down. But for me, I thought I didn't have time. I was like, oh my, I can't pencil in time for that. Or I'll push it off because in my mind, I thought the task was too large. So I'm like, oh, well, that's something I may want to do 2 Sundays from now, for an example. And then 2 Sundays will come and I'm like, okay, well then something else that came in my calendar type thing. So I think it's really important to practice self-care and to make that time so that you can keep the commitments Number one, to yourself.
Okay. Now, what made you decide to have self-care one of your focal points? Because some people, I've talked to people that don't even believe in self-care. And also explain why self-care is not selfish.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. So the reason why I made, self care, not only valid and important for myself, but for the community of women that I'm building. And even I really have even started advocating for men to have self care, is because we are always made to believe that it is selfish. Because we're always made to believe that spending time with yourself is unnecessary, but it is so necessary. Because from a woman perspective, and in a household, whether it's a large household or a small household, you're the pivotal point of the household. So if you're not running at maximum capacity, how can you be there for others? So I know in our cars, for an example, sometimes we like to play that e-game where we, especially now that cars have so many miles to eat. I don't know if yours does, but you can kind of see where, oh, okay, I got just a little bit. I got just a little. Okay, okay. Well, I'm not gonna go to the gas station because I have 125 miles to eat type thing. We run our bodies like that. So we literally think, we get those warning signs, right? We may have a day where we're not feeling the best, or we may just feel fatigue, but we're not sure where it's coming from, and just all these different type of things. But we're always putting it off because we believe that we have time, to be there. But really recharging, because again, we talked about preserving what we have, really spending time to preserve that topic, from big or small, right? But it actually caring for ourselves and showing ourselves, that is showing love, like at the highest admiration. It is not selfish, because I'm being the best me, so I can be that for the best you, the best for my kids, the best for my husband, and everything like that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So is there anything in pertaining to, like, say if you have friends that don't believe in self-care, but you do, and then there's time, sometimes you get those phone calls or text messages, and you're gonna have some friends, family, whoever, that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
draining. Would you consider self-care, like, if you're having, say I'm out having lunch and I don't want to take any phone calls, I won't take any text. Will you consider that self-care if I don't answer that call, don't answer that text, and just enjoy my moment peacefully by myself?
120%.
Because some people get offended
Oh
that.
yes, I've experienced it. And true story, I don't think he'll mind. I had to get my husband on board with it, and just practice self-care this morning. Went to do something for myself this morning, and the reason why I say 120% is because people treat you how you want to be treated. And the way I care for myself is going to be the way I care for you. You get where I'm coming from? So if I ensure that my time is my time, then the quality time, to your point, with all these other people that may be calling you and things like that, they're going to be vested in value. I'm going to be even better. But what happens is there begins when you don't. So let's talk about the opposite. All these people saying, okay, you shouldn't have this allocated time for yourself. So what happens when A, you start to see other people do it, or B, you're giving so much time to these other people? There becomes this underlying subconscious resentment. And you start to play in your mind, possibly, what other things could you be doing with your time? So you're not fully even vested in the other individual and spending time with them. Now, this could be any relationship that you have. But when you've actually made time for yourself, you're rejuvenated, right? You're ready to do those other tasks and those other things. So the second thing is, I would say, in everything else in life, you don't mind rescheduling. You reschedule your doctor appointment sometime. You reschedule a hair appointment. You reschedule like all these other things. So you can reschedule a phone call. You could give advance notice. Tori, I know we had set to do some things, but I had to move some things around in my calendar. I'll call you as soon as I get back to the house. You don't have to fully let, everyone know that you're going to do something. And again, all these tasks don't even have to be something where you're actually out doing something. But the biggest thing is giving yourself that dedicated time. So if you can reschedule everything else that you deem important, then you can reschedule these other things with people.
Mm, that is so good. That is so good. Because a lot of times you find yourself, I know I'm guilty of this. Show up I like to show up in a lot of spaces, and sometimes I don't self care. I miss taking care of me. I want to make sure others are well taken care of, but sometimes I slip on myself. But I think I'm doing a better job at it. But I gotta get because I used to take myself out all the time, but I've gotten away from doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to stop doing that. Because one thing I don't do, like when I know that I have a podcast, I just relax that day. I don't typically like to answer calls or text the days that I have podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to be in the right frame of mind. I don't want anything to steal my joy,
Exactly.
steal my peace. So a lot of times when I have a podcast, I just don't answer my phone or I don't answer my text messages. I just do what I need to do and get it done. And then like if I feel up to it, then I'll return phone calls or text after my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want my head to be cloudy. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
want my head to be clear. And I think that's so important, but everybody doesn't understand that. Not only that, I have a good friend of mine, Miss Janice Alford. She's a grief counselor. And one thing she tells people as well that when you're grieving, it is so important to take care, to do self-care. And and then she tell those of us that are being there for people that are grieving that sometimes just being there, you don't have to say a
Mm-hmm.
word. Sometimes you just have to sit and allow
Mm-hmm.
people to feel what they need to feel, how they need to feel it, and all of that good stuff. But self-care is so so vital. What would you say to people that um, are not doing self-care, are not taking care of themselves? What would you say to them to encourage them to partake in self-care more?
Let's see. I think I would start off by asking them to assess their health. So I would ask them to start assessing their health, and they could maybe take any avenue of it. So they could take their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual health, and start really assessing. When I say assess, mean really look through. Okay. So me at my highest self, or when I'm at 100% capacity, this is how it would look. This is how I would feel. This is how it would be. And then really say, am I there? Am I there? Do I look like
Mhm,
this? Do I talk like this? And in
mhm,
most cases, if you're true with yourself, and that's a key word, true, right? Sometimes we don't answer things truthfully because we know it hurts, because we're our own biggest critics, whatever the case is. But if you truly answer it, if you're not practicing any form of self-care, you're going to see that you're not. You're not going to be at the highest capability that you can be. Okay. One thing I will say is to kind of cliff note that is one of the biggest reasons in talking to women. I've been on platforms, group ones and individually, in individual sessions. The biggest thing is time. People don't perform self-care because they don't believe that they have time. And you even talked about it, so I would imagine that's almost an 8-hour day, for your podcast to get yourself together. And so if someone hears that, sometimes they're like, well, I don't do, I can't do that. Right. They be like, well, I can't take 8 hours. So I always ask people, how many minutes do you think you could give yourself today? Like I usually ask them that. Well, how many minutes do you think you could give yourself today? And so depending on what their response is, then either I'll just ask them to start thinking of a task. Because a lot of times you're just going to build momentum to do it again. So if you say, well, I only have five, first of all, it doesn't even sound great to say I can only give myself 5 minutes today. Like, let's just be honest. So that means all your other 23 hours and 55 minutes is going to be dedicated to somebody else. First of all, I just want people to hear how that sounds. Number two, I would say then, well, okay, well, let's just find a quick 5-minute thing that you can do, because the biggest thing is I want to do is to debunk myths. Any myth that somebody may have about why they can't practice self-care, I'm going to do that. And the number one thing that everyone always says is time.
Mm. Because people have these busy lives, and you got to make time. Because, like, for example, I actually set out certain days that I self-care. So even if you have to make time, you set a schedule as to when you're going to do the self-care. It's so important that you partake in self-care. And matter of fact, of course, like I said, this past weekend, I also um I went to Wilson Homecoming was this past weekend. And I'm still a little tired, still catching up with that.
Right.
Friday, I went to the block party, and then Saturday night I went to the old school dance. And it's like, for me, you got the self-care to recuperate. And those that I know, those tigers that partake in something every day, listen, you guys have got to stop and rest, because I know some of y'all was on go like the entire weekend. So make sure you catch up on your rest, catch up on your sleep, and even it. And then I don't know if this makes sense, but sometimes just resting is self-care, because
Now
self-care.
that's the one. That's the one I had to learn.
Because listen, I would be up all times of the night, just laying down at maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and be back up at 7. And there were times where I wasn't sleeping I'll go days without sleeping. And I remember my doctor telling me, like, Tori, that by you not sleeping, you're slowly dying. He's like, just like the plants and animals need the sunlight and the water, you need sleep. Your body needs sleep.
Yes, that's true.
And he's like, even if it gets to the point where you have to take something in order for you to get rest, then you have to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, people don't understand, something as simple as sleep is self-care.
And it's because of society, and then there's so many things that have us thinking that rest, this hustler mentality, I can sleep when I'm dead, all these kind of euphemisms that have been out here forever. We and I say we because I was a part of that community for a very, very, very long time. I don't know, because I was youthful or what, but I just thought I was just an energized body. I could go, 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 and all those things. But when I began to really start looking into what, again, that assessment, so I'm not telling anybody stuff that I haven't done myself, and it is hard, start writing things. I was like, why am I feeling tired all the time? I too was a person. I did not miss. I'm like a huge cheerleader for people. If you're in my group, if you're my friends and we locked in, I don't miss something. I really don't. And I wasn't 5 minutes away from these events, mind you. Like, I would have to drive hours and hours and hours to get the things. So I started realizing, like you said, for example, this busy weekend, and they have to turn around. So maybe I got home around this time, get my kids situated and ready for bed. I have to get up the next morning. So I had no time really to rest, because you're not going to sleep till around 12 maybe, and then you're getting right back up like 4 or 5 or 6. So yeah, it's rest is essential, and it's free. Like, it's free, and it's priceless. Like your doctor told you, it's priceless for your body. But we feel like, and a lot of women have told me that too, laying in the bed all day, we feel guilty about that. Like, your mind literally goes like this: don't I have other stuff to do? Like, couldn't I be doing this? Couldn't I be doing that? You could be doing just what you're doing right now, right? Was just resting,
Mm-hmm.
and giving yourself a day of rest. Like, we don't realize how much better we would be after seeing that.
Right. Now, what do you say to people that may what's the word? What's the word? Like, you ever have people around you that can possibly be draining? Let me ask this question kind of and I think this is self-care to me, and you tell me how you feel about this. Like, say you have people, whether it be friends, family, and they're always draining. Will you consider it self-care to disconnect at times, or limit, put up boundaries, limit when you talk to them? Because I find myself sometimes if people are really, really draining, I don't always answer. I don't always respond, and sometimes it's a while for me to respond because they're always,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm a dumping ground, so to speak, and they're always draining. So how do you feel about that? Would you consider that self-care when you set those necessary boundaries, and and some people you have to disconnect from?
Yes, yes. I definitely think that is a form of self-care, even in the aspect of preserving your mental health. And it's something that isn't talked about a lot because those people that are really just compassionate people, they're some of the best of friends. You just even said about you how you show up for people, like you're really probably a friend MVP. And so those, honestly, and those kind of people, the people that are that way, they seem to always be a landing pad for people who just want to pour and dump type thing. So I'm glad we're bringing this up during the podcast to talk about it, because it is something that's not talked about enough. So I'll say two sides of it. The first side of it is, if you're feeling that way as a receiver, you do need to set boundaries. Now, boundaries, they can be thick or thin. To your point, right? You said some people that you just have decided that you're going to have to distance yourself from permanently, right? There are people that really are draining to you. They may not even believe in where you're going type thing, right? And then there's some people that they just don't mean any harm. Like, that's just their personality and they gravitate towards you, but it's a lot. Like, the stuff that they tell you seem to always be heavy, or your mind. I'm not an empath. I don't believe I'm an empath, but people say, oh, you can be empathetic to me, but if you're an empath, you literally get the feelings of others. So if they're telling you and pouring a lot of stuff on you, you're going to be receiving that. So if you already having a hard day, it wouldn't be best to talk to them, and that's no more than, saying, oh, I'm sorry, girl, I'm sorry, guy, like, I had my phone do not disturb, or, I just really took time for me. What's up? I'm available now. When you feel like you're in a better spot, in a better place, because you really don't need that right now. Now, sometimes you may not even understand that you're the giver, but I ask people that's listening or viewing this podcast to really start assessing, how often are you talking to that closest friend or family member, and what are you talking about? If it is
Oh,
always right. So again, we need to ask ourselves harder questions. Like, okay, when I call Tori, what am I usually talking about? Number one, am I usually always talking about myself? Do I ask Tori anything about her day, what she has going on? Or am I talking about an event we just went to, right? Oh, and what we really took away from it, and how this was a good time, and how we can implement things? Or did you listen to the podcast? What did you think about the episode? Or just pouring again into the other person. And if we find that we aren't doing these things, we need to start asking Tori or whoever it is in the audience, can you handle this type of conversation today? Like,
mm,
my friends and I have started doing that. Can you handle, like, okay, I got a lot to share, but are you ready to can you handle a serious conversation? If you want to just do something like that, a serious conversation right now, because that doesn't make it all about you. That really is checking in and being considerate of Tori and what she wants to discuss. And if you can, right? So that's on you for your self care. If you know right now you got a lot of stuff going on, I'm so glad you asked me that, Mattie. Not right now. Like, I don't want you to think I'm not here for you, but just, I really can't take nothing else today. But what I can do for you is send up a prayer, or a moment of thought, whatever you believe in, and we can circle back to this in a day or two. But I so appreciate you asking me versus just going ahead and telling me everything and that I had no choice but to receive it, and I really would have been heavy on my heart the rest of the day.
Right. And sometimes you just have to tell people, I don't have the capacity to handle this today. And then we can't be, and then it's, yeah, I'm glad for people that do at least ask, how
Mm-hmm.
are your day? There's some people that call you, they don't even ask how you doing. There's people that I call that I hear their silence. So I'll call or either I'll text them, are you okay? How are you doing? So I think that is very important. I know the question because it escaped me. The question I was going to ask you, how important is it for you when it comes to would you consider when it comes to friendships, family, or even romantic, um, how important is it to you reciprocity?
Hmm.
And as it involves self care.
As far as like reciprocating it back to me, or
Yes,
them doing it.
both.
Okay, that's a good one. So I'm in a space in my life where that's big overall, because for so long I gave people the benefit of the doubt. And what I mean by that is I would be a certain type of way and I would evaluate myself, and I would be doing good things for people and being there for people, but I wouldn't always get it back. And so I started saying, okay, well, I started making excuses for the people as to why they weren't doing things for me. So we can go back to events for an example. Okay, I would have an event, you wouldn't show up, you wouldn't come. But when you would have something, I would show up and I would come. And I know it's beginning to be a pattern because, again, I would give anybody the benefit of the doubt per se, but doing that. So I say that to say that's really big for me in any kind of relationship, right? I make, I'm vocal about that though. You don't have to wonder. So if I'm there for you, I want you to be there for me, type thing, number one. And number two, when it comes to self-care, I want you to model self-care as well because I know what it does for you as an individual, but I know the heightened understanding you'll have when I do it. So I talked about, you know, doing self-care and my husband still saying, "Oh, you're gonna practice self-care today, huh?" Oh, I am. Put my pocketbook on and go out. It used to be like that. And it used to be like a running joke of, oh, self-care Sunday, self-care Sunday. But then I started to notice, and just being honest here, I started to notice you buying facial treatments and you got the whole steamer and you doing grooming to your beard. And I said, what's going on here? I don't want to be bothered. I'm practicing self-care. Oh, okay. Okay, so you want uninterrupted time with yourself to do something to preserve yourself. Okay. And that's what I mean by that, right? It should be reciprocated because there's an understanding of I see how Mattie is when she does it. I see how Mattie is when she operates in it. And that's a good Mattie. Like that's amazing. And you seeing when it seems like you were saying, I missed that time for myself, or if it was a activity that I really wanted to do and I didn't get to do type thing. So yeah, I think it's huge. I'm definitely very vocal about it. You don't have to wonder how I feel about it in any type of relationship. So yeah, I'm definitely, and luckily almost everybody is fully on board with it. And those that aren't, that's fine. It's
That's
still gonna happen.
good. That's good. And I'm gonna put up this comment. Charlene says, she says exactly. I stopped making excuses too, because it's so important. And then Charlene also says, yes, I'm a better me when I take time for me. And
Oh, absolutely.
that is so important, that when you take time for yourself, that makes you better, because you have to take care of yourself in order to
Hmm.
be better for others. Because I was at one, I'm pouring out to everyone else and I didn't have anybody to pour back into me. So once I start taking better care, now I got to get back on it because I fell off. But once I take better care of Tori, then I'm able to take better care of others. That is so important. And then when it comes to showing up for people, especially like when you have to attend events, you can't make everything. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence.
I just
There.
learned that. I honestly just learned that in so many like capacities years ago. So that's not something I always knew. You know, as a child, you hear no. I think that's, it's like you hear no, and we formulated that with a blockage of something, like something that couldn't be done. And so I didn't like saying it because what I believe the receiver thought of it. So I didn't like saying no to friends or family members because I believe that they may have thought that I didn't want to do it, or that, and the list goes on and on and on. But really, what no is saying is not right now. Right? So, no, I can't do this right now. No, I'm not available right now, type of thing. So, yeah, it's a complete sentence, but I think it's all in. I'm really big on intention. So, if I understand a person's intent, the impact of that no is not going to affect me. Like I almost can pre-calculate, or even want someone maybe to tell me no in a situation versus, you know, I was just running to everything like that. Like I really was just running to everything. And I started noticing, yes, there were people that came for me, showed up for me like so many times, but I'm coming there. I don't have nothing to give. Like it took all my energy just to make it to your event. And then, because of who I am, very outspoken, I'm charismatic, it began, oh, Mattie, do this at the event. Oh, Mattie, we so glad you here. Like even down to birthday parties, baby showers. It was, I couldn't be a participant is what I'm saying. Like I couldn't just always be there. It's like when Mattie is a great host, she's this, she's that. I was like, sometimes I wasn't even aware. It was just like, okay, oh, okay, I got to do this and do that. And I don't think that people see anything wrong with it. And I don't think they're in the wrong, their intentions are bad when they ask someone to do things like that. But again, we got to do more of this asking type thing. We got to give people grace in situations. And just because somebody's really good at something doesn't mean that they always want to do it. So
Right.
you're a good friend. You're a
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal friend. You're a phenomenal mom. But that doesn't mean you always want to be in mom mode or you always want to be in friend mode.
Mm-hmm. And Charlene says, I understand what you are saying. It was hard for me to say simply no until about 5 years ago. I
Okay.
always felt like I had to explain, try to make a way when I knew I needed to rest, go rest, etc.
Yes. Yes. You are not alone. You were not alone. You are not alone, Charlene. I felt the exact same way. I felt like I needed to over explain. Like I needed to give you a dissertation in a text message of why I could not make it to the event. Now somebody asks me, are you gonna be able to? Unfortunately, no. Like it bites me a little bit still, but I'm like, unfortunately not. I can't.
Oh, and I think I'm still like that to a certain degree sometimes when I really want to be somewhere and I possibly can't. Like not this Sunday, I think last Sunday was a busy Sunday. I had like I had like 3 or 4 different events to say, but I made it happen. I was tired, but I made it happen because it was so important that I showed up for these people that I showed up for. Like it was very important that I showed up. But there's some things that's coming up that I have to say no. But I think it's so important that we show up when we can. But when we can't, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
And sometimes like when people have events, not only do you not you can't if you can't physically be there, you can also do a donation or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And even saying a prayer, that's support as well. even when it comes to business owners and events, social media is a great way to get things out. So you can share a post, you can comment, you can post a link. That's actually helping as well, because sometimes I see posts that are shared on my friends page that I wouldn't like if I'm not friends with that person that's having the event. If I see one of my friends share the post, then I'll be aware of the event. So sharing on social media is a huge part of getting the word out as well. It is so important. But back to what we were saying, like it's hard to say no. Do we understand? I know I had to learn this. When you are not able to show up, it's okay. And those that, when you don't show up, those that get upset, do they really understand? Do you really consider them friends? They get upset. But the ones that really care and love you, they're going to understand. Like, I know you wanted to be there, because there was some events I couldn't make. I say, Tori, I know you wanted to be there, and I know you would be there if you could, but I understand. But then
Right.
there's some, stop talking to me because I wasn't able to make it. And then life happens. And then sometimes when life happens, I'll like call them like that something came up, I'm not able to make it. But my word is my word is my word. If I say I'm going to do something, then I actually do it. And if I can't make it, then I will definitely let you know. But some people don't understand. Some people don't understand. And then sometimes you just gotta take time for self.
And I think also, and you make a good point about those that don't seem to understand. And really, when you talk about, reciprocating and reciprocity and all that, do these people give that to you? What are their patterns? Because if you're really upset with me for missing, which I'll just speak, most likely is one event, then you really don't understand me. You don't understand our friendship. Because if every time you've had something, or even if you don't have an event, we was earlier speaking about availability. I am the available friend. I'm not one of these friends that leave you on red in a message. I'm not one of the friends that you got to keep calling me. I won't answer. Like, I'm really always readily available for people, even in my busy life and all the roles and everything that I hold. I am an available friend because number one, I know what that means, and I want that given back to me. So if I'm really that way, and this one thing really has set you off, you got to evaluate yourself. Because I'm gonna start in the same moment to look at, okay, are you really available for me? Like, you don't even know really what's going on, why I can't make it. Like you said, you heard people silence, and you hear people silence, stuff like that. This person could be the strong friend and all of that, this, that, and the third. But I really start to really look at things like that when people just get mad over a one-time occurrence. Now, if there's a pattern and all those things, I'm doing all that to someone else, then yeah, call me to the carpet. Say, okay, Mattie, we need to have a conversation because I gave you a pass. And we have friends like that. I gave you a pass, you didn't come to one event, but now you just overall seem distant. Because maybe that's another conversation, you need to have with somebody. But I think a lot of people always want to be understood rather than understand. And I think that's one of the best things I did for myself a couple of years ago was seek to understand rather than be understood. So that's one of, like, I want to hear people's perspective. I want to understand where they're coming from versus when I was younger, that's all I wanted to be was understood. I just want to be understood. Like, hear me out type thing, right? I mean, I was on a debate team, so that's kind of like what you have to do, but it trained me. Like, even younger, I was always, Mattie got to get her point across. Mattie got a little neck roll and everything when I was young with it. But now, and you could call it, the occupation I'm in and things like that, I just really want to understand people. Sometimes we be like, that was so crazy what they did, or they was out of the norm, and I'd be like, I want to understand. So I'm gonna start asking you questions because I feel like if I understand you more, then it'll make more sense for me, and then you'll want to hopefully understand me because I won't seem self-centered. if that makes sense, right?
Right.
You want to be more open to dialogue, friendship, conversation with me because, oh my God, it's always about Mattie and her getting her point across again. Like, that type of thing. Oh, Mattie want to win this argument. Oh, Mattie, you not even listening. You just already, a lot of people do that. I learned that in communication, that when you're in a conversation with somebody, they aren't listening to you. They're just hearing and they're already processing their rebuttal or the next thing that they want to say, versus like kind of pausing, like how you're doing now. Perfect. Chef's kiss, right? Like you're really, I can tell that you're listening. You're giving me verbal cues. I can hear it in your voice if we weren't there. And so that's great, but we don't always get that. And so, yeah, that's a lot.
And let me go back to one of Charlene's comments. Charlene said, yes, Tori, sharing helps so much. You can show up for someone in so many ways. And then Charlene also says, I started being more intentional with my energy and efforts,
Oh,
trying to
wow.
be trying to be something or one way for everyone, because that is just how I am, and it came, wait a minute, for everyone, because that is just how I am. It became too much. I started being more intentional about reciprocating the showing up for those showing up for me. Trying to show up for everyone began to drain me in times when I didn't need to be drained, when dealing with those actually supporting me. Oh, that's good. That's really good.
That
That's
was
really good.
me. Charlene and I we must have got telepathy or something, because I'm telling you, and I'm so glad that more women are arriving at being intentional, because life is short. Like, there was literally a quote, and I just shot it, but it ran to the effect of, you know, we can't get more time in our life, so we can give our life, vested and do more time. So it was kind of like the premise of, we know that we're not going to get to add hours, right, or add years to our lives, but the time that we are given, we're actually going to live. Like, we are going to be very purposeful. We're going to make sure that we're setting out to do things. So I love that, because a lot of times, we are enabling people, if you will. We're enabling people from these behaviors and these type of things, whether it's a marriage or a friendship or a parent, a sibling. We're enabling for them because we're not modeling the best us. And number two, because we're not calling attention to situations, like she said, things that really drain us, or things are not the right time, or because we've always felt, and I say we because, a lot of people in our community, they always think, you got to be down for whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. You just got to always be down, always be there. No, I'm not a yes friend. I'm not a yes wife, a yes parent. If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I love you. I mean it, but I'm going to tell you, that you're wrong type thing. So a lot of times we're enabling people and we don't even know it.
Ooh. Okay, let me piggyback off what you just said. That you love them, but you let them know. What do you say to those people that don't speak up, that they want to say something,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not speaking up, and they're allowing people to take advantage of the situation? And the reason why I say that is because I was there at one time. It's like sometimes you don't say anything, and then when you do say anything, it's because everything them pile up and you're about to explode. So what do you say to those
Ooh, it's
people?
getting good. I'm jumping in my seat.
What do you say to those people that want to say something? I mean, it just,
Mm-hmm.
but they just won't say nothing. And it's like, because you don't say anything, that person's not going to know. And they're going to keep doing certain things, and it just keeps piling up and piling up to get to a point. I know with me, it gets to a point where it's balling over, and I about to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
gotta have, and it's important to have those hard conversations. And sometimes we can become avoidance, like I have done in the past. we
Mm-hmm.
avoid those hard conversations, but those conversations need to be had.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to them? So what do you say to those people that don't speak up? Don't speak up for themselves. They just allow things to go on and let things fester, and then you, next thing you know, you're bubbling over. You're about to be on an episode of Snap.
So I will be transparent and say that that is a characteristic trait that I have not fully mastered talking people through. And let me tell you why. Because I am a person who always wants to defend people. And I love to defend people that are that way. And when I say that, that means if we are all in a friend group or if we're all co-workers or we're all in a situation, I'm going, because they've had, most of these people have had dialogue with me before, I can sense it or see it. I love to sometimes interject. Well, how do you think you made Susie Q feel when you like? And I'm like, man, calm, like, and because I don't shy away from conflict at all. Like from a child to now. Now I'm much more mature now. I'm very calculated. I know how to speak and not just talk. But back in the day type thing, oh, I was going with you like that. So I said that to say when I see somebody like that, the first thing I want to say is speak up. Speak up. Like that's what I want to do. That's not the correct thing to do because in all honesty, it can make someone feel worse about it. What I would see is that being motivating. That is not, that is almost demotivating to someone. So what I would, the coach in me, I'll say that, would start asking questions of what, and you really alluded to a lot of it. What do you think you're doing by not sharing in the moment? And then let the person tell me, well, X, Y, and Z. A lot of times it's going back to this point of now is not a good time. Phrases like that. Phrases as, oh, well, Tori, that's just who Tori is. Um, just like the list goes on and on. You'll start making excuses. And then I'll ask them, well, what is that doing for you? Oh, okay. What do you mean? Okay, so what is that doing for you? What benefit are you getting? Are you getting good feelings out of it in this situation? Because again, this is something like you stated that they need to address. They know they should address, but they're not doing it. And most people are not going to tell you that they are leaving these interactions with people or these conversations with people and feeling better than when they walked in. And if I'm not feeling better with something I walk in, I'm going to do things to make me feel better. And when the second part of that is once you've identified that this is really bothering you, because again, these are small things, we really need to reverse that thought. The quicker we address something, the quicker it can get remedied versus letting things pile up. And now we're becoming that person, right? We're becoming that angered person. And now a lot of people say things out of anger. Some of it could be true, some of it could not. But a lot of people say things out of anger that they would have not else said or said it differently. So the best time to talk to someone is when you have a level head, when you can still show compassion, when you can have empathy with the person. And my final thing I would say is to that person is don't make it about them. Make it about you. And there was a course I took many, many years ago when I first started management, and it was called Crucial Conversation. Y'all can Google it. I'm pretty sure the workbooks and the textbooks are all there, but it really helped me in my personal life as well as my professional life, where it helped me what we're talking about now, like these hard and crucial conversations. And a lot of times people are resistant or defensive because you say things on them. Tori, you're rude, you're argumentative, you did this, you did that. Versus saying, Tori, last week when you and I were having a conversation and we were talking about weight loss, there were some things that you said, as it relates to me not losing weight as fast. And it really made me feel as if X, Y, and Z. What was that your intention, or what are your thoughts, about that? Because again, I didn't say you called me fat, you did this, you did that. I really got very specific on what that activity, when we talked about what that was, how I felt in it, and what was your thought. Because doing things like that really just opens the dialogue for somebody either A, to admit that they, in the moment I got mad or something like that, or say, oh, no, Tori, that wasn't my intention at all. And I greatly apologize if it came across that way. I was really just hoping that I could motivate you by saying you haven't been doing this in a while. So those are the things that I would say to someone that's really more reserved and quiet and avoids those hard conversations.
Oh, that was good. Cause I still have my moments where I'm like that. I want to say something, but I don't. I'm like, cause like you said, something you said earlier. You said that you don't mind. You don't have a problem with conflict. Me, I'm the opposite. I avoid conflict at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
If I know it's going to cause an argument or conflict, I don't say anything.
Okay. Would you be okay with sharing what prevents you from that?
Oh Lord. I think for me personally, I am more concerned about um I care about people's feelings. I care about how it's going to affect that person.
Okay.
And a lot of times I'm more concerned about how it's going to affect that person more so than I could care about, you know what I'm saying? I'll put their feelings above mine.
Fully understandable.
And it's like sometimes, and when it comes to friendship, I find that sometimes my loyalty to people sometimes is hurting me, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Because my follow-up question is, even in that example, who's gonna care about you more than you care about you?
Mm.
So anybody who's in that moment, and that's why I asked you that question. Thank you for your transparency, because that kind of goes back to it's all tying into self-care. Like everything you're stating now and what we're talking about is still solidifying the point of care. You just shared, and I've been that way too with different aspects of my life, where I was more vested and cared more about other people than I did myself in that moment, because I thought I was showing them an action that they would give me back. So I thought that if I did all those things, oh, okay, maybe not right now, but when I need it, they'll give it back. Or maybe they'll give me a little bit more grace when now is not a good time to bring this topic up or do this type of thing. But what you'll find is it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Nobody's going to care about you more than you care about you. So things or situations that you are in and you have that challenge, you don't have that respected, you got to stand up for yourself. Like you have to stand up. And I think people think standing up for yourself is being aggressive. It's being all it's not. I'm just as calm at times when I say I don't agree with that. Or, you know, mm, yeah. I don't think when you do those type of things, I don't think that presents who I know you could be. So when you went out and did that, I don't, yeah, that's not. And it's definitely not some way I would want you to treat me. Just
Right. And
like
then
that type of stuff.
and
And
I've actually, and I probably apologize for interrupting, but I've actually been in a conversation before, and I said to someone, "Well, I didn't like the way you said that. I didn't like what you said, and I don't like the way you said it." And instead of them trying to understand, they say to me, "Why you got to be so sensitive? Why you got to get in your feelings?" And I
yeah,
was just like,
yeah.
and it made me, and with this, with certain people, when they come off like that, it's like you express how you feel.
Uh-huh.
But when you
Mm-hmm.
express how you feel, you get attacked. So then that makes you not want to express your, how you feel at all. So like certain things, I'm like, you know what? I'll just talk to God about
Mm-hmm.
it.
And yes. And maybe that's, and so for someone who's not, again, I had to grow to that, right? Someone who doesn't always have the best rebuttal, if you will, right? Or someone who maybe not, and there could be people listening, watching, and they're very similar situations to where a, they call it fight or flight, silence or violence type thing. I'm violent, not violent fists, but in those reactions, I'm not silent. When I'm silent, it's a problem type thing. But and that's just me being honest. But and I say all that to say sometimes because you don't know where to navigate, you are 150% correct. In that moment, it may be best just to take it to God and move forward. But again, let's go back to these relationships because we're talking about now doing that. And for someone to say, well, why are you being so sensitive? A lot of times when you start asking people questions, and this can go back to my profession, but a lot of times when you ask people a question versus always wanting a rebuttal, they can kind of talk themselves out of or into something. And I say that to say I would be like, well, what about that comment was sensitive? Oh, well, I mean, you said you don't like how I'm talking to you. Okay, well, how are you talking to me? I mean, I was my voice was raised a little bit, and I was moving my hand, but you should know me. You should know what I mean by that. And I was like, okay. So would you talk to somebody that you're madly in love with that way to get that point across? No. Okay. Would you? What voices would you have? And then start like really starts getting them to see. No, that's not the most nurturing, that's not the most compassionate and caring way to share anything. And acknowledge maybe this is how you talk, maybe this is just how you do things, but that doesn't make it right, that doesn't make it well received by everyone. And I'm a person that wasn't well received by. So it's a lot of dialogue that should happen in those type of things if you're prepared for it, if you're comfortable with it, and if this person truly knows you. Sometimes people do, like I've had people tell me that before. When you start to speak up for yourself, you just take everything so personal. Okay. Oh, well, you just making it. Am I? Am I? But if you're talking to me, wouldn't you want to know how I'm taking it? Because if not, you can talk to that wall. Because it's again, like so I'm saying, like people, hard conversations are hard for people, and I really have learned that. Literal conversations, like the dialogue that you and I are having today, it's hard for a lot of people. People just, again, they want to speak out things and they don't really care or want to know how it's being received. So that would be something that, I know it's a work in progress. I know like this has really been something like heavy on me, wanting to help people find their voice. I'm thinking about how I can express on my platforms because I really know that a lot of people are not together, friendship wise, families broken up, all because we couldn't have a hard conversation.
Right. And let me go to this comment that Charlene made. She says, right, it rarely works out that way. So I set boundaries and abide by them. And that was one thing that has helped me recently, setting necessary boundaries. Boundaries are so necessary. And I had to learn that because sometimes certain depending on the relationship with that person, you feel as though you can't set boundaries. But no matter who it is, you have to set boundaries. You got to protect your peace. You got to protect your energy. You got to by all costs. And you got to make sure you're okay. Just like how they say when you're on I think you're on a plane, you have to make sure you put your protective mask on first
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to And I was like, because me, I would be panicking. Like, say if my son is older now, but say if it would have happened when he was younger, I would be more concerned at making sure he has on a mask, but he'll have on a mask. But if something happened to me, he would have been too young to take care of me. So we have to make sure we take care of ourselves first, put our face mask on first before, make sure everybody else is okay. And I had to learn that. I'm still in the process of learning that. It's just, I just want to love on people and I expect for people to love me back, but that's not how it operates. A lot of times we expect you, like me, I expect me from other people when that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the case.
But I will say to that is important. Just don't replace avoidance with boundaries. So in those situations, in those scenarios, if you may first deem it as, okay, well, I'm going to put this person over here, or I'm going to sit this friendship, relationship over here. But if that action happens over here, what will you do then? So it could be a completely different space. It could be a coworker now that same scenario that we're talking about here. What are you going to do then? Are you going to then set another boundary? It may be a little harder because if this is your coworker, maybe there's a work assignment that you're on. Maybe you're peers with this person. So don't allow, and I think this comes into the transformation or elevation of where you are. If this is something that really is important to you, don't always avoid it. Now, if you have talked to that person and you went through things and they've given a lot of the feedback that you share, even if they sat on it and slept on it and they didn't come back and say, okay, I saw your perspective, or maybe you see their actions, which I'm really big on, their actions changed, then yes, that's a necessary boundary. But what I have found is that people really avoid, and myself, I'm healing too through things. And what I deemed one time as a boundary was avoidance because I fully wasn't prepared to handle this type of scenario or situation. So the situation kept flip flopping over and over and over in all different aspects of my life, almost like a caution sign, like, Mattie, you need to be able to deal with this now, right? This is something that you need to heal for yourself. And it became avoidance. So I would just say, yes, be careful to not mix and mingle the two.
Okay. That is great. I'm glad you broke that down because I think some situations I called it a boundary when it was actually
Me too. Me too. I'm like, nah, okay. I feel like, and then if you pay attention, and she talked about being intentional, and if you are really intentional on aligning to your highest self, finding your purpose, your faith walk. I mean, it says keeping the faith podcast, right? So when you think about all these things, you'll be more keen, if I use that word correctly, to these things. And so you'll begin to notice it's popping up. And it's popping up for a reason, because it's maybe not about the receiver, it's about the giver. So maybe it's something that you need to learn, a skill that you need to work on, or whatever facet it is, so that you can move past it. And I've just found sometimes it really does come in, I mean, literally down to maybe your children. You can't set a like, okay, maybe when they're grown and you like all this, but as a small child presenting a behavior that you don't favor, you can't really set boundaries with small to teenage children. So it's almost like you're pressed to have this topic, to talk through things. And, I think those things are good. But a lot of times we just, and myself, I'm not taking me out of the pool. We are really avoidant of some actions and behaviors for the reasons you listed, for the things that are unsaid, but we label it with a boundary so that we can feel better about not talking about
it. Ooh, that was heavy right there. We feel better about not talking about it.
Yeah, we always want to label. We will call things other things to make us feel better, because right now we're not able to process it, because like we talked about with these difficult conversations and people who don't have them with people to express the care that they need. You just said it's because you're like, well, now's not a good time, or I just think that maybe they'll do this and they'll do that. Really, they won't. So yeah, like, what are you getting out of it? What are you getting out of it? And this goes to a lot of people that are so selfless, not selfish. A lot of selfless people are drained, and they're demotivated, and they're really dealing with a hard time because they give, do, and they don't get anything back, and they don't know how to verbalize that, because just like you said, they feel like they will be hurting someone else by doing that. Now, unless you are causing harm to someone, putting yourself first should not at all enable or hinder someone else at all.
That makes a lot of sense. Oh my goodness, we went over an hour, but you gotta come back. We might have to do a part two. But
Absolutely.
what are your if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what are your social handles? How do they reach you on social media, or email address, or phone number? How you want people to get in contact with you, since you say you are a life coach? If they want to reach out to you, how do they get in contact with you? Tell everyone your social media handles in case they may be watching the podcast and may want to reach out to you. And who knows, so maybe somebody may be watching and may want you to speak at be a speaker at an event. You just never know. So
Absolutely.
what are your social media handles so people are able to reach you?
Absolutely. So my social media handles are Mattie Lisa, which is my name on the screen, the bottom left corner, on all platforms, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to Newly Lemon 8. I also, though, have a website where if you're looking to book a consult for coaching services, at destiny'scompass.com, DESTINYS compass.com. And also, I am Destiny's Compass at iCloud.com if you would like to email me about any inquiries. But I'm pretty active on my social, so if you wanted to send me a direct message inquiring about, I do speaking events, I do guest appearances like I did today, and a lot of other things, just to build a community, spur awareness, and push through these points. So I'm always available.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Make sure you guys reach out to her. Now, what are some of your closing remarks in regards to self-care? Your final thoughts.
My final thoughts, just out of the dialogue that we had today, is self-care is not selfish. It is not selfish. And building and caring and preserving the best you will not come at the hindrance of anyone else. And if there are those around you that make you feel as such, you want to evaluate those individuals.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I just took a mental note. That's really, really, really good. Well, thank you so much for taking out on your Sunday to hang out with me today. This has been an amazing topic, because
Yes,
self-care.
thank you for having me. You're
You're
amazing host.
welcome. Listen, you definitely have to. You're definitely gonna have to come back, because, like I said, self-care is so important. And I actually want to. I'm actually building a plan. I'm actually building a panel, because I'm having some other conversations that I'm going to have, but I want to have like some married people as well as some single. So I want some married women, some single women, some married men, some single men. But I'm actually putting that together. So we'll talk about that behind the scenes. But those of you that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in this evening to the Keep the Faith podcast. Mattie has been an amazing guest. And before I go, I also want to say this. I have a friend of mine, Miss Tabitha Lai. She's celebrating a birthday today, so I want to wish her a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Tab. Wish you many more to come. So happy birthday, Tab. And also, I want to show love to those. I enjoyed myself hanging out with some of the Wilson Tigers this past weekend. I had an amazing time. So I got to show love to those mighty Wilson Tigers. Y'all, it was amazing hanging out with you guys this weekend. I'm still trying to catch up on my rest, but it's all good. So I got to show them love as well. It was an amazing weekend. But and then church this morning was amazing. We had an amazing time at Strong Tower Christian Ministry in Florence, South Carolina. Elder Ernest J had an amazing message. The title of his message was walking with God. And it was a very powerful message. What a great way to end the week. But with that being said, there was another comment that came up. Hey, Kendria. She says, hey, y'all. Hey, Kendria. Hey. And she said, how I miss it. Listen, you're going to have to go back and watch
You're going to have to watch the replay because this was a good one.
Listen, and Kendria, you know how big you are on self-care. So make sure you go back and watch the replay. But what's up, Kendra? Thank you so much for tuning in. Even though you missed it, but hey, girl. Hey.
Right.
But thank you guys for watching. If you missed the beginning, make sure you go back and watch the replay. Make sure you actually share the podcast as well. And I definitely will have Mattie back in the near future. She has been an amazing guest, and I will definitely have her back. And like I say, at the end of every show, whatever we go through in this thing called life, we may bend, but don't you dare break. You guys enjoy the remainder of your Sunday. Be blessed and have yourself a blessed and amazing week on purpose. And in the words of Tabitha Brown, if you ain't having a good day, don't you go messing up somebody
else's, right?
All right, y'all. Y'all have
Bye,
a great
y'all.
weekend. And we'll talk to you later. And Mattie, hang on, because we're going to talk about some things off the air. But you guys have a blessed Sunday on purpose. Peace out. Bye.